Yeah. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we jump into this video, shout out to this channel Behind the Track. Yes, they have a new one which was uploaded like a day ago, titled How One Song Made Stars but Left Its Creators Forgotten. I'm not too sure what song we are talking about, but we're about to find out, so stick with me to the end of this video. Let's dig right in, guys.
Sometimes a song is too beautiful for its own good.
Yeah.
Without You is one of the most heartbreaking ballads ever written.
Oh, okay, Without You. I think Mariah Carey. Okay. Whoa.
A song that made others famous, but left its creators in the shadows. Pete Ham and Tom Evans poured their pain into every note. But while the world sang their words, they died in silence. This is the story of the song that gave everything and took even more. Every song has a story. Welcome to Behind the Track.
Yeah.
In 1968, a young Welsh band called the Ivies signed a record deal that most musicians could only dream of. They became the first non-Beatles act signed to Apple Records, the label founded and run by the Beatles themselves.
Okay.
That same year, they released their debut single, Maybe Tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow I will love again.
It was lush, emotional, and it showed promise.
Sounds like
but
it.
The song only charted modestly in Europe and Japan. And when Apple fell into financial chaos, their album was pulled from US release entirely. The Ivies were stuck, talented, signed, and going nowhere. McCartney, along with Apple executive Neil Aspinall, thought the Ivies sounded outdated. They pushed for a name change.
We went through name after name and started figuring out stuff. And none of us could come up with anything that we liked.
John Lennon wanted to call the band the Pricks, P-R-I-X. And I guess Paul wanted to call them Mother's Helpers or something. I can't remember, but you know, there were all the normal nonsense names were thrown in, you know. And one day I guess Neil said, hey, what about Badfinger? And everybody kind of looked at each other and said, well, what about Badfinger? He said, what the heck, that's all right, yeah, so I took the name.
And just like that, the Ivies became Badfinger.
Okay.
Paul McCartney saw potential. He handed them a song he had written and recorded as a demo, Come and Get It.
If you want it, here it is. Come and get it.
One night, I kind of was in bed and I couldn't go to sleep, so just ran downstairs and had this little idea and did the rough idea for Come and Get It. And then we were set up to make a Beatles album. Can't remember which one it was, we were set up. So we were all in the studio, the drums were mic'd, everything was mic'd for the next day, you know, on the album. So I just ran in, because I lived real near the studio, so I just ran in. And Phil McDonald was the engineer. I said, Phil, everyone's going to get here in half an hour. I said, look, before they get here, I want to do a quick demo. I said, I know exactly what I want to do. Get the mics, go now, get it, drums first. And I kind of knew how it worked. Like piano. Dun, 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 bass, dun, dun, dun. If you want it, here it is. Harmony, come and get it. And Phil, he had a heart attack, but we in about half an hour, I think, we made that demo. Then I said to Badfinger, I said, now it's got to be exactly like this. And they were kind of young band. They said, well, no, we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to get our own thing in a Welsh voice. I said, no. To do the rest of the album like that. But this is going to be exactly like this, because this is the hit. And you know, in the end they did. Oh, all right. I said, well, look at the B-side and everything else, the whole rest of the album, you really shine. And so, you know, we did get a big #1 hit, which introduced them, you know, to the world.
With a new name, a Beatles-penned hit, and major film exposure, they were now being hailed as the new Fab Four.
Okay.
But Apple Records was a mess. The label was generous with artists, but poorly run. Release schedules were chaotic, finances disorganized, and when Alan Klein took control, things got worse. Albums were delayed, budgets slashed, entire teams replaced. As Tom Evans put it, we're the guinea pigs, the first group Apple ever launched, and we're the ones suffering.
Yeah.
Still, Badfinger persevered. They changed their name, they wrote their own songs, and Pete Ham's voice became the heart of their sound.
Okay.
While tensions grew behind the scenes, Pete Ham was writing a new song, one inspired by a painful argument with his girlfriend.
Pete, I said, right, I'm not going in the studio tonight, we're going out for the evening. Just literally as we were walking out the front door, Tom popped his head round and said, I've got an idea for a song. You come in the studio. And Pete said, no, I promised Bev we're going out tonight. I said, no, it's fine. And he said, no, I promised you. And I said, look, I don't mind. I'm smiling. And he said, your mouth's smiling, but your eyes are sad.
He called it If It's Love, but it didn't feel complete. Meanwhile, Tom Evans had written a desperate chorus. I can't live if living is without you.
Well, there was 2 bits of song. It was Pete's idea to stick it together. The bit I had was like help. But it's basically, in essence, mostly the chorus bit, you know? And he just had this other bit. He said we should stick those together, and we got in the studio and we were doing it, and I said, I don't like this. It's too corny, you know? I really didn't like it. You know? And that's, if you listen to our version of it, it's kind of, it's earthy, but I mean, I'm not really trying on it, you know?
Yeah.
And just disregarded it.
The 2 songs were joined together, and Without You was born.
You always smile, but in your eyes, your sorrow shows.
As soon as I heard that line, you always smile, but in your eyes your sorrow shows. For Christ's few tears shed.
The song was released on their 1970 album No Dice, but Apple didn't believe in it. It wasn't released as a single. There was no promotion. The song faded quietly until Harry Nilsson heard it at a party.
I was at a party one night in Laurel Canyon, and you know, I was sitting on the floor playing records, and somebody played this song, and I thought it was Lennon.
Yeah.
Without you, you know, I thought that little thing. The next day, I called my friend, and I said, what was that? That song that had, you know, you know, in it, you know? He says, what? I said, you know, it's like a Beatles song. It's like a Lennon thing.
Yeah.
He said, geez, I know which one you mean, but I can't think of it. And everyone remembered that, but no one remembered the song. And we're all going through all the Beatle collections, and I said, I know, it's not the Beatles, it's the other one, Grapefruit, you know, and it's not them. And finally, somebody said, Badfinger. I said, Badfinger? Oh, that's it. And we found Without You. So I took it to Richard Perry, the producer, and said, hey, Richard, I think I found one. He said, oh, Harry, I think you have.
And then we're working with Todd Rundgren in our studios. We were doing Straight Up, I think it was. And Nielsen comes in and said, I've got this song that I want you to hear. You know, I didn't know, I knew who Nielsen was, but I didn't know him personally. He come in and introduced himself. And he took us to the mixing room. I said, I want you to hear this. And he played Without You. And that really showed me what you can do with a song production-wise and, you know, with a good singer, you know. And it just blew me away. And I said, well, where did you pick it up from? And he said, well, I thought it was an old Beatles tune. And I asked Richard Perry to find it for me. He said he went through all Beatles albums, and they were stumped. He said, I've heard this song somewhere, you know. He had it in his brain. And they said, we started going through your albums, you know, Beatles, you know, Badfinger, try that. And they found it. He said, we came to England with just this one song. You know, we didn't have any other songs. You know, we just went around publishers and whatever else. We built this album around this song, he said. I said, well, I thought it was corny. He said, well, what do you think of it now? You know? And I was told, that's why I don't mind ballads anymore.
Harry Nilsson thought it was a Beatles song. When he found out it wasn't, he recorded his own version. It became a massive hit. #1 in the US, #1 in the UK. It won a Grammy and became a global standard.
Wow.
But the men who wrote it, they stayed in the shadows. Their names weren't on the radio. They saw almost no money.
What?
Why? Because by then, Badfinger had made a terrible mistake.
What was that?
In 1970, Badfinger signed with Stan Poley, a smooth-talking American businessman. He said, in 3 years, you'll be millionaires.
We were recommended to this guy, Stan Poley, by an agent, a friend of ours in England, Barry Marshall. Stan represented Lou Christie, Al Cooper, Charlie Calello, one of Frank Sinatra's producers. People like that, pretty legitimate people in the business. The deal he talked with us was pretty fair. Was a company, Badfinger Enterprises. He owned 51% for tax reasons. We owned the balance, 49%. They took a 30% commission from Badfinger's gross income. The rest of the money was supposed to be banked.
He said, we'll just put it all in a pot, and by the time we've reached the end of the album deals,
you know, you'll all be very rich people. But in the meantime, we'll just be on a basic salary, I'm afraid.
See, Stan Pauly got the royalties. All the ASCAP checks went to Stan Pauly, right? Which was like Badfinger Enterprises, Inc., probably, right? You know, that's gone. That's out of there. You know what I mean? On paper, it sounds good. Well, you're making this much. It never did say how much, but we figured it's got to be this much, you know, slightly. And we figured we're doing like 2 tours a year, or, you know what I mean, 3 months tours. It's a long time. 6 months on the road. It's a lot of gigs, you know.
Pauly created a company called Badfinger Enterprises, Inc. He controlled all income, from record sales, tours, and publishing. The band got weekly salaries, but Pauly kept the rest. They were touring the world, recording with ex-Beatles, hearing their songs on the radio, but still living in a shared house with their girlfriends, broke.
He was changing for the gig and had on what I thought was a pair of, I don't know, comic shoes. The soles were coming away, like the old vaudeville comedians or something like that. And I said, oh, part of the act, do you do a comedy number? He said, no, those are my stage shoes. I said, well, you can't wear those on stage. I said, you know, the local idol coming back. He said, they're the only ones I've got. And I said, well, why didn't you buy some new ones? He said, I can't afford it. I got no money. And then I went and got him a pair of my new shoes and gave them to him, and he wore those in the gig. You know, so, and I never got them back.
In 1972, Badfinger left Apple Records and signed a new deal with Warner Bros.
Warner's gave us, I think, $6 million. They guaranteed us over the course of the next 3 or 4 years. They gave us all solo deals. They gave us a multiple album deal, and X amount of dollars every time we delivered. It was a great deal, and a lot of money for publishing, and you know, open budgets and stuff. So it was a great deal, and we signed it.
It was $3.5 million, whammo, in the bank right there, right? So many albums. I think it was 8 albums. And this, that, and the other. You get producing rights, you can be producers. Every one of you can be a producer. Go talent scout, do this, you know, whatever you want to do, right? I mean, but it sounds good, doesn't it?
But the contract was brutal. 1 album every 6 months for 3 years. Pauly negotiated everything, and Warner sent him a $250,000 advance. Then, the money vanished.
At that point in time is when the shit started hitting the fan, where, you know, Warner Bros. Had sued Stan Pauly, right? Because money went missing out of escrow, some $300,000 or something, I don't know, $250,000. And in turn, they individually sued each member of the band. We didn't even know they were suing. We didn't know, you know what I mean?
Warner panicked. They pulled Badfinger's new album, Wish You Were Here, from stores. They sued Pauly. They froze the band's payments. Badfinger was broke again.
Wish You Were Here, man. It was like, wish you were where, you know? It was like, they pulled it off the shelf as soon as they started selling. I can't believe they did that, you know? They should have at least made some money off of it, right? Yeah. But they pulled it, you know?
Stan Pauly stopped answering calls. He disappeared. Pete Ham was devastated.
At this point in time, his girlfriend, Anne, is pregnant. He just got a house with a mortgage payment.
Mortgage.
And we got no gigs. We got no tours, nothing. We were like dead in the water.
In April 1975, Pete learned he was completely penniless. His girlfriend was pregnant. The band was falling apart.
He had got this phone call from America, basically saying that his money, everything had gone, everything.
On April 24th, she found him hanged in their garage. Pete Ham was 27. He left a note. It read, "Stan Pauly is a soulless bastard. I will take him with me."
My boss thought I worked all weekend, but I just stopped using ChatGPT like a toy and do this instead. Let's be real.
After Pete's death, Badfinger tried to keep going. They signed with Elektra, released 2 more albums, but it wasn't enough. Legal disputes followed. Members fought over the name. Royalties never came. Tom Evans was never the same.
When he died, Tommy didn't have anybody he can talk to, write songs. His other half was gone. Many times he said, I want to be there where he is. So everything just collapsed.
In 1983, after a fight over Without You royalties, Tom also took his own life by hanging. Just like Pete.
Tommy would say, one day I'll be up where Pete is. It's a better place than down here.
But the song's legacy didn't end with Badfinger. or with Harry Nilsson. In 1994, just a week after Nilsson died of a heart attack, Without You returned to the charts, this time in the voice of Mariah Carey. She hadn't planned it. Mariah said she was working on Music Box when she randomly heard the song in a restaurant. And in her words, I just knew it would be a huge international hit.
I'm going to do a song now that I always loved as a little girl, and it always used to make me cry.
She wasn't wrong. Her version became a global phenomenon. In the UK, where Mariah had never had a #1 hit before, Without You debuted at the top and stayed there for 4 weeks. It ended up as one of the biggest selling singles of 1994. A new generation discovered the song, but still, almost no one knew who wrote it. I can't live if living is without you. That line made millions for others. It gave Grammys, it made careers. But for the men who wrote it, it gave them nothing, except pain. Now, when you hear that line, you'll know where it came from and what it cost. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the song that started as a demo and unexpectedly won an Oscar, or the heartbreak anthem, Layla, a song written for a forbidden love that became a rock classic. This is Behind the Track, where every song has its story.
Wow, guys, shout out to Behind the Track for this insightful video, guys. This video, honestly, I mean, is one of the most eye-opening videos I've watched in a while. Behind the Track definitely did a phenomenal job telling the story that's so common in the music industry. Yes, we rarely explored deeply. Guys, Badfinger, Harry Nilsson, Mariah Carey, beautiful song, man. I mean, this video absolutely digs into how this song came about, who wrote it, who made it popular, and then who made it a global a hit. It's also sad, how Badfinger, the band members, they went out, writing a very beautiful song, yet getting nothing out of it. It was just one misfortune after the other. It's also unfortunate that they wrote a beautiful song and they got nothing. Oh man. Wow. This song, I have to say, Mariah Carey definitely made it a global hit, and I love it. One of my favorite songs from her. But the story behind it is just so sad. Yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if you want me to do videos such as this one. I'll be so glad to be watching these videos and sharing my thoughts with you guys. Yes, if you stuck with me to the end of the video, you're loved. Very much appreciated on here. My name is Philip. On to the next reaction. Take care. Stay safe. Peace out.